we're on 106 in Lafayette, the birth and childhood home of my mother, Greta Toinstra Beagle, and she was born and raised there, and her father was a custodian of the church that was just 1 block away and is still standing. And we're in front of the church that was the Second Christian Reformed Church of Roseland. My grandfather, Peter Toinstra, was a plasterman, and during the Depression he lost his job, and so the only job that he could get was a custodian at the church. And right next to the church was the parsonage, and I went to a boys club as a young person in the mid to late 60s at that church. So many of these places hold memories for me as a child. We're going to proceed west on 107th, and I'm going to show you the grade school that I went to. These streets are streets that I rode my bike down every day as a child. Growing up in the 60s, the only means of transportation I had was the bicycle. So many of these streets have significant memories for me. We're coming up on Wentworth Avenue, and on the corner of 107th and Wentworth, which is now a barber shop, is a place called Custard's. And Custard's was a place where we could go and get a pop for a nickel and just kind of hang out as kids. And this was an area that I also hung around with my friends. I mentioned that I was a baker, and we had plenty of bakeries in Roseland, and this place that's now Christian Family Faith Center was a bakery also. And there were a lot of bakeries in and around these neighborhoods because transportation wasn't as good as it is now, and so these people just walked to the corner store. We're coming up on 108th Street, and 108th Street is where I went to school. We'll take a little trip and see if we can see my grade school growing up.
The roads could use a little work.
Yeah, that's for sure. 108th in Princeton, and the school is still there. I'm sure that building is over 100 years old, but that school back in the day was Roseland Christian School, and there's a couple cars outside. I don't really know what it is today, but that's where I spent the first K through 8. There's a garage in the back here. This was our cinder block field as a child, but that's where I went to grade school. And I mentioned earlier, the home and the church and the school is what formed my worldview. And so riding down these streets brings significant memories back to me.
What was the ethnic makeup besides Dutch? Did you have other?
There was a lot of Italians.
Italians?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Italians lived in the Kensington area, and we'll go through that. I would say that religion was strong. It seemed that I had a lot of Catholic friends and I had a lot of Protestant friends, but religion was a big part of what we did. This is 107th Street. That building across the street. Oh no, this is 107th. I lied. I'm kidding about this here. No, I think it is 107th. No, we're to the south. They're all looking at us, so I'm assuming we're going the wrong way.
109th and Princeton.
Yeah, but I think it's one way because everything was facing one way. This church on the right is the old First Christian Reformed Church of Roseland, As you can see, it's also in good shape. Many of these places have been well maintained, and it's nice to see that. I have